Hello guys, this is Mike from ISO Drops, and we have a great chance to meet Baron Gong from Origo.Network just before Origo meetup, and we can make a small interview with Baron. Hello Baron.
Hi.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah.
Could you please, first of all, introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your personal background and how did you get into crypto?
Hi guys. This is Baron from Origo.Network. Basically, I was trained as a math background in the States. I went to Columbia, and I was also one of the outstanding winner of ICM, which stands for Interdiscipline Contest of Modeling. So I'm more on the math background right now, and currently on Origo.Network, I'm also helping building all the token economics and also the governance models, things like that. Prior to this project, I started a company in China in 2013, and that was on data-related reporting project for companies on their social responsibility reporting. And I sold the company in 2015 and just kind of jumping into the crypto space, started doing Bitcoin trading, started to working with some of the projects at that time. I think last year we saw more the problem of data privacy. My colleagues Frank, Ija, they all worked at tier 1 Silicon Valley companies before on data related kind of tech stuff. So the whole team is very sensitive about how you can actually preserve data privacy on blockchain. And at that time there was no very good solution to that. As you can see, a lot of projects are focused on scalability. How do you make a blockchain perform better and faster? But then at the same time, you have only Monero and Zcash that does privacy only for transaction. But no one is doing that for, let's say, smart contract. And smart contract is such a crucial thing if you want to use blockchain to do any kind of applications. So I think that's where we started. We say, why don't we create some privacy preserving smart contract? And in that way, you can actually kind of make more real world business applications on blockchain. So basically, you're using both the decentralized nature feature of a blockchain, but at the same time, you're still protecting data privacy.
Baron, thank you for the introduction, and I really like the Origo network because of of this privacy feature, where we see how there are a lot of different projects that are trying to integrate distributive technologies, computation power on the blockchain, and I really like your example in the white paper when you are showing some smart contract game like Skissers and paper that everybody can see the result of the game, and the Ethereum network can provide us with such a feature where privacy can be integrated. And Zcash, they don't have smart contracts, and this is what distinguishes Origo network from other ones. But what do you think about competitors? Maybe you have some thoughts how Origo network will integrate in this ecosystem of a lot of such different but very similar in terms of the idea projects.
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think our perspective on the privacy smart contract space is about two things. One is how easy can you make it to develop with like normal developers? Because whatever kind of privacy cryptography methods you use, it's something new to like normal developers. You have to make it as easy as possible. So in that space, we're building the Origo compiler. The compiler is used to convert the high-level programming language in a smart contract into a zero-knowledge proof circuit. Because I mean, most of the privacy technology are based on circuit, not the code. So you have to use something like a compiler to convert these kind of things. I think that's one thing we're working on, and also some tool chains along with that. I think the second thing is really about how you can actually lead people to think about real world applications. In this case, we've done some work. We've done some pseudocoding for salary contracts, insurance contracts, and supply chain contracts. These kind of contracts are usually, let's say, we call it privacy against third party, meaning that usually the parties in the smart contract, they know each other, right? Like your boss and you, like your supplier and you, like your insurance company and you know each other. You wanted to use smart contract because you want to make sure that code is law, that everything is executed right away, whatever is written, right? But then at the same time, you don't want your competitors or your colleagues know how much your boss is paying you, right? Like, or your competitor know what price you're importing your goods at. I think that's one kind of very cool privacy applications we can actually use. So that's privacy against a third party. And also you mentioned about simple games like rock, scissors, papers, and also let's say like a seal bid auction. And these are different kind of privacy. It's privacy against each other. If you know everybody's choices in a game or in an auction, you can cheat, right? You can easily do something against them. So that's privacy against each other. I think we also have some infrastructure for that kind of privacy as well. So basically combine these two kinds of privacy into one infrastructure. And whenever people want to deal with one kind or another, they can just they can just choose the right tool or the right option to do that kind of things.
If we're speaking about privacy, what private blockchain are you going to use on your platform? I know that if I want to use Origo.Network and if I want to use the privacy feature, I need to transfer my tokens like into private blockchain, and then all of the operations, as I see in white paper, are going to be in that private blockchain. What private blockchain are you going to use on your platform?
Well, actually, the idea is not doing everything on the private way. It is a different network. We call it executor network, but it's not private. So basically, the executor network is also decentralized. So meaning that everyone can be the executor, as long as you satisfy two conditions. Right now, we're thinking about number one condition is that. In order to do an execution, we would require some trusted execution environment like Intel SGX to do execution, right? And also, because sometimes executors can do some malicious behaviors like aborting the execution or leaking information like that, we also require a deposit that's relative to the amount of your smart contract, like monetary value of that smart contract. If you can satisfy these two conditions, then you're in the executor network that we're going to build. But that network is not private. It's still decentralized because everyone can be in that network. Yeah, everyone can. So everyone can be the user and executor at the same time. And as I mentioned before, let's say in a salary contract, you and your boss are running that contract, right? So the easiest way is not to have a third-party executor. Maybe I can be the executor, or maybe your boss can be the executor, right? So having one of the smart contract party to be the executor is also a very good solution to a lot of the privacy problems we have so far.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to say that, to my mind, Origo.Network is solving a very urgent problem, because the initial concept of blockchain was in many ways about privacy, and today's situation shows us that your actions, your moves are really transparent to many eyes. Yeah. And speaking about privacy itself, it doesn't have only technical aspect, but it also has a social aspect. So what is, in your opinion, how can we find the balance between privacy and security?
We wanted to enable this kind of feature without touching the data itself, while still using the data for computation. Why is data computation so important? Because you have to use it for applications. You don't just sell or exchange your data in most of the applications, right? Say if you want to calculate something, say if you want to qualify for something, that's all related to data computation. So if you don't touch the data itself while still using the data for computation on blockchain, that's something very, very different in a social perspective that differentiate blockchain from cloud computing, let's say, right? Like the traditional internet technology. And we feel like it's more important right now because, I mean, performance is one thing, of course, but cloud computing also has very good performance. But then security and privacy is something that we see more as the potential of any kind of blockchain platform. So I think that's our number one focus. So the whole infrastructure in our technology is around that. There's a very famous trilemma in the space, right? Decentralization, performance, and security privacy. I mean, out of these three, you can only choose two. Basically, our choice is decentralization and security privacy over performance. I mean, it's not gonna be like super fast, 1,000,000 TPS per second. That's not our goal. That's not our goal in this network. This network is all about how your data is secure, how your everything you do, like you said, your behavior on the blockchain is secure and private. That's our philosophy for this.
And I know that you will have a great feature like computation sharing, and you have also announced that you will have a state sharing, and this is something that I haven't ever see this feature in any other project. What do you think when you will integrate this feature? Because this is something very interesting, and I think that in your white paper you haven't announced it yet.
Yeah, that was something new. When we, as I said, when we come across this kind of privacy preserving technology, we find out that they're adding some additional cost to every node on the blockchain, right? There are two additional costs. One is that you're storing something more. You're not just storing like traditional smart contract data, you're also storing the zero-knowledge proof kind of related data like circuits, or in our case, we have verification key that needs to be stored online so everyone can verify that, right? So that's additional cost, number one. Number two is that the nature of a zero-knowledge proof computation is very different from a normal blockchain computation. It's very intense. So if you're using the same gas fee model for both kind of computation, it doesn't make sense. It costs you a lot of money to do a privacy computation, right? So because of these two additional cost, we think we need to do some scalability part for this kind of privacy features in order to make it run smoother and faster. Computational sharding is certainly number one thing we're working on right now. My colleague Frank, and also we just recently joined by Ray John. They are all distributed system experts working at tier 1 Silicon Valley companies for more than 5 years. So they know these kind of things for a long time. In terms of state sharding, we're not sure at this moment because there are some puzzles around that issues. I think Ethereum is trying to struggle with state sharding as well. But as far as we know for now, computational sharding is something we need to do for the scalability part for privacy features.
Something from the TV show, you know, such technology is very interesting, but it's really hard to integrate it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Zalika is one of the very exciting projects that's working on similar sharding things. I think.
Blockchain as well.
Yeah, maybe Corkchain as well, but their idea of sharding is very, very different.
Yes.
Well, there's no right or wrong in engineering. We always say that, right? It's all about trade-offs. There's no perfect engineering solution. You choose one feature, you sacrifice the other. Yeah.
If we are speaking about your roadmap, I think that your token swap is planned in September 2019, and the community thinks that this is the really long one roadmap, and so before that date, it would be just like trading of your token, and no one could use your platform, I think. Is it because it's really hard to make such platform, or it is your like marketing plan for the community to distribute some token?
Yeah, I mean, that's another good question. I think in our white paper we said the official testnet will be ready until the end of this year.
Yes.
Yeah, December 2018, right? And then mainnet is next year in June. So I think we'll probably open source part of the code before December of this year, so that the community can have something to play with. Actually, we have already partnered with some very exciting projects, like IOST. They're using our privacy protocol on top of their scalability public chain, right? And we're also partners with HOT, the Hydro protocol, DDEX. I mean, a lot of either blockchain projects or real-world internet companies, they've already started talking with us. We've already shown them our POC, MVP, and how they can actually run their kind of application on us. That work is actually started. Yes. We haven't announced it yet, but I think more news will be announced in the future, in the end of this year.
Okay, and as soon as you've mentioned some partnerships, I would say, with other projects, are you planning to do more partnerships with projects inside blockchain sphere and with real business as well?
I think our focus is more on real world business. Although, I mean, in our project, we have this protocol, Origo protocol, right? Theoretically, that protocol should work with any blockchain that has smart contract feature, and we can protect their privacy. But then we feel like it's more urgent to engage with more real world companies, especially in the space of finance and healthcare. Because in these two industries, data privacy is very crucial for their business and for their users and for their risk controls. And it happened that we have a lot of connections both in China and in the States, in the fintech space and in the healthcare tech space. The team has a lot. My colleague Sonia, she's leading a BD team based in Beijing. She has over 15 years in BD. Super cool. And also we have a lot of traditional VCs backing us. Their portfolio companies really needed this kind of new technology. So I would say we would focus on that part more, and we have started that already. You will see more coming in the future.
You know, there are a lot of complaints from the community about the KYC process right now.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Maybe you are not the right person to ask this question, but what do you think about why you have integrated such strong KYC process with photos of the Origo website? And do you want to remove some bots from the KYC process, or this is just to establish the best from the community who is willing to really contribute to the Origo network?
Yeah, maybe I'm not the best person to answer this, right? Yeah, but I do. I can share some insights about this. I think my colleague shared this philosophy with us previously. I think the idea is about engaging with real fans, because a lot of the robots, they get free tokens and then just dump it right away after getting listed. That way, it hurts everybody, like every investors, every public sale, like real participants, which is not very good. I think that's number one. And also, second is that you don't actually need so many fans at one time. We feel like it's better to make it more organic. So, I mean, it's sort of relates to our timeline of technology as well, right? The more you build, the more you release, the more partnership we have. You see, you have more fans in that way. I think we're more comfortable with that, rather than just talking with cold robots in that way. So I think that's why my colleague decided to make it really hard KYC process. And also, I think we're having a white paper exam, right, this weekend, global-wise. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that everyone understands what is Origo. That's the fundamental thing, yeah.
So you really want people to understand what they are investing in, yeah. And speaking about the project progress, at what point are you right now, and what are your plans for the nearest future?
Sure, we are going to conduct our public sale very soon. So probably within 1 week or two. Still waiting some responses from our lawyer, but that shouldn't be very long. So I think that's the most urgent thing right now. And technology-wise, as I said, we've already finished all the POC and MVPs. We've also finished the framework for Origo compiler. Yeah, let's see. Somewhere at the end of the summer, we'll be able to share some part of the code with the whole community, and yeah, maybe we can invite someone to try some kind of contracts on that as well, right? Yeah, that's on technology-wise. I think really our focus still right now is more on the coding itself. The scope of our coding is very large. As we mentioned in our white paper, our own chain is not forked from anyone. So we're basically writing from zero for a whole new chain based on C++. So we didn't fork anything from Ethereum. We think we have some better design, better infrastructure, better parts of the tech that's more up to date. Although we do have a strong respect for the Ethereum community because they're the first, and they went out so early. Some of the technology we're using right now was not even out there at that time. Yeah, I think that's our basic progress right now.
As you have mentioned, you are building your project right from the scratch. And when you're building such a complex system from the scratch, it always involves a lot of risks. How are you going to deal with these risks? And I think it's very important, especially when we are speaking about the privacy aspect.
Well, I mean, there are two kinds of risks. One is related to the infrastructure. The other one is related to the privacy technology, right? I think the risk related to the infrastructure that we're building from day one, we try to learn from the best projects already. I mean, a lot of their design ideas, there's some very good, as you mentioned, very good projects after Ethereum. We've looked at all of their code base, their structure. We had very intense internal discussion about different parts of the technology and what trade-offs should we make and what trade-offs should we not make, right? So far, we think we are still kind of conservative in terms of inventing pure new things from scratch, right? So still some part of the idea or structure is from some proved ideas or proved structure from other projects, many projects. I think that's the magic about open source programming, that you can learn from each other so rapidly. And also we try to make our infrastructure as flexible as possible. So whenever we find out there's a better solution to this piece of the tech, we can just simply migrate or add to that part. I think that's on the infrastructure one. And related to technology, the privacy technology one, because so far there are some challenges about zero-knowledge proof that no one has ever done before. No one has ever done zero-knowledge proof on smart contract. No one has really build a very sufficient zero-knowledge proof compiler, like I said. These are some of the risks we're seeing, but I think progress-wise, we're fine. We've had all the POCs and MVPs. We've run tests internally. The performance is not bad. It's actually quite acceptable. Yeah, I think that's how we view this kind of things.
Maybe in the end you have something to add from yourself to this interview, like some thoughts, yeah. And maybe you want to tell or to wish something to ICO Drops community.
Sure. Hi, ICO Drops fans. We know that you guys are one of the very first earlier supporters of us. Really appreciate that. The whole team knows that, and also apology for some of the misdeleted robots we thought at the very beginning. Yeah, I mean, just stay tuned. I think we're going to create something very exciting. That's something you probably haven't seen in the past few years in blockchain projects. Just try to stay tuned about everything we're making right now. Just try to be very connected. Thank you.
Thank you.